Daniel Craig reveals he won't be leaving his kids any inheritance. Okay. So Daniel Craig, who is who? He's 007. He's James Bond, right? Good-looking guy.
Knives
rock
Out.
star, absolute stud of a guy. Says he will not be leaving his kids any money to his children from his inheritance. The 53-year-old James Bond star was asked about leaving his two daughters money and said, "Isn't there an old adage that if you die a rich person, you failed?" Daniel continued in his quote to Candace magazine, "I think Andrew Carnegie and American Industrials gave away what in today's money would have been $11 billion, which shows how rich he was, because I'll bet he kept some of it too." He added, "But I don't want to leave great sums to the next generation. I think inheritance is quite distasteful. My philosophy is get rid of it or give it away before you go." Thoughts?
I had two thoughts and two questions when I first heard about this story. Number one, how much is Daniel Craig worth? All right, he's done 5 Bond movies. He's going to do one more. He's worth $160 million. So we are talking about a significant amount of money here that could be passed on. Here's my second question, and I legitimately came up with this, and it's this. How much does he hate his kids? Because he clearly does. I mean, he does. You have to dislike your children to not want to give them part of what you've earned. And I will not waver from that. Now, so he was married in the 90s. And so he's got a child that's 29 now, a daughter. I think her name is Fiona. Okay, so he's got a daughter.
With Rachel Weisz?
No, he's got a young child with Rachel Weisz. Okay,
kids, that's pretty solid. I mean, that's...
Well, I'm going to stay with this.
Okay, let's hear it.
So then he also has a stepchild that's 15. And my thought is, does that stepchild annoy you so much that you don't want to pass on some money? I don't get it. I think there has to be some rationale. By the way, he's trying to justify this quote. Isn't there an old adage that if you die a rich person, you failed? No, there isn't. I've never heard that in my life. And I think you just made that up, Daniel Craig. I don't believe that is an old adage. So I think you have to get to the root of this. If you dive deep and try to figure this out on a psychological basis with Daniel Craig, I think he has a dislike for his children, or one of them, and he doesn't want to give him any money.
I will see Daniel Craig's quotes, and I will match him and raise him. A famous British soccer player named George Best has the greatest quote about dying with money of all time. He's on his deathbed, and he had spent, for people that don't know, he was a British playboy, and you know, he was known for lavish parties and being a swinger and stuff like that. And he's sitting there on his deathbed, and he goes, 90% of my money I spent on fast cars and faster women, and the other 10% I wasted. And you know what? Hey, man, it's your money. Do what you want with it. But I will say this, okay? And this goes back to when I was coaching, and I was coaching young kids, and I was always fascinated by how different the wealthy kids were than their parents, especially the hardworking parents, like dudes that were contractors and stuff like that, and masons who had really, really made a life for themselves, and then their kids were like pretty soft, man. And I one day I asked this one dude, I'm not gonna say his name, but I was like, dude, you are the toughest dude I've ever met in my life. Like, you've got rock hands. Like, I ask your kids to do 10 push-ups and they cry. Like, what happened here, man? He goes, it's my wife, dude. He's like, you'll see one day if you have money. You give your kids everything you never had, and they will turn into everything you never were. And that's kind of his Mason philosophy, man. And look, that's not universal, but I think there's something to it. Like, I think I don't think Daniel Craig's going to follow through with it, but I think there's something to the salvo of making his kids go, hey, you better work. I'm not going to leave you this. I'm not going to leave you this life. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But that to me is a message to his kids going, you guys better get to it.
Yeah, you know, I just pulled up right now an article from CNBC Billionaires who said they're not leaving their kids their fortunes. Okay, so you got Zuckerberg at the top. Then you have Bill Gates, who said it will mean they will have to find a way on their own. And he says it's not a favor to kids to have them have huge sums of wealth. It distorts anything they might do, creating their own path. Chuck Feeney, same thing. Warren Buffett, same thing. Enough money so they would feel they could do anything, but not much that they could do nothing. Michael Bloomberg, same thing. He said, if you want to do something for your children and show how much you love them, the single best thing by far is to support organization that will create a better world for them and their children. So not giving them the money. Then
if only there was somebody maybe in the room who had accumulated vast sums of money and had children that maybe could have an opinion on this.
So you know what I would say about this? Here's what I would say about this. I don't know who we had on recently, Kai. Maybe you'll remember this with your memory. where he said, tell me who's Carnegie's great-great-great-grandson right now that we all know about. Tell me, who is it? Tell me who is the current Vanderbilt billionaire that the money got given to that we know about.
Interesting.
Tell me who is the current, Rockefeller that's a great,
Interesting.
First. So tell me the richest man's great-great-grandkids that still have the money.
Yeah,
tell me.
You ever met anybody named Medici?
Yeah, so
Interesting.
So I interviewed a guy, I don't know what his name was, but I interviewed a guy from Seattle. Do you remember his name? The guy from Seattle who was dealing with all the billionaires in Seattle, and his job was family planning. And one of the families he dealt with was this big fund out of Franklin Templeton Fund. The owner was worth $5 billion.
Mark Demos,
right? And his job was to prevent these kids from committing suicide, becoming drug dealers, becoming drug addicts, drinking alcohol, and pretty much killing themselves and wasting their lives. Because these billionaires went out there, made all the money, gave their kids everything they wanted, made their lives easy, and they screwed their whole things up. This right here takes me back to a book I read years ago by Jim Stovall called The Ultimate Gift. I don't know if you've read it or not. I probably bought a few thousand copies, and I always have my guys read it. Jim Stovall on the Move. The whole story is about a guy named Red Stevens. He's from a very low-income family, simple guy, comes, he starts working for this one guy in Texas, apparently, I think, and the guy who he's working for dies and leaves him with his land. Well, the guy takes the land, they strike oil. Apparently, there's a bunch of oil at this place. Well, he becomes a billionaire, Red Stevens. After he becomes a billionaire, his best friend becomes his lawyer. He sits his lawyer down, and he tells his lawyer, and they record 13 videos, is what he records. The one video he records is the day when he dies, okay? And that video is going to be watched by all his family members. A fascinating story. So the day comes when he dies. He's worth $2.5 billion. Everybody shows up. His wife shows up with two of his young boyfriends, okay? His kid shows up. His nephew shows up. His daughter shows up. Everybody shows up. And he plays the video. He says, well, if you're watching this video, it's because I'm dead, okay? Now, there's a few things. By the way, do you guys hear that background noise, the music? I don't know what that is. Kai, is it you?
Is it the phone?
Oh, it's the phone. Somebody keeps calling it. I got it. So he says, so if you're watching this video, it's because I'm dead. Great. He says, well, let me start off by saying that my son, I love you. You're amazing. You're great. You're going to get the $620 million of money under management and everything we do. He starts celebrating with his girlfriends. He said, well, here's the problem. You have no say in it. You're going to get a small interest that's going to be given to you. The money manager I trust manages the whole thing, not you. Pissed off, gets up, walks out. Honey, I love you. You're going to get our real estate portfolio worth $600 million and the young boyfriends, all this stuff. But you have no say. The janitors have more to say than you do. You just get to live there. You don't make the decisions. And he goes around everybody and he makes these types of decisions. At the end, he says, there's only one of you here that I have the ultimate gift for, and it's my nephew. For you, I have the ultimate gift. I don't have cars. I don't have a house. I don't have an investment portfolio. I don't have a company to give you. I have no dollar to give you, but I have the ultimate gift. You could get the ultimate gift, but it's going to take you 12 months to receive the ultimate gift. If you want the ultimate gift, come back here on Tuesday to meet with my best friend, my lawyer, and he's going to tell you what the ultimate gift is. Everybody else, you're dismissed. The nephew gets up, cursing him out. I knew he was cheap. He wasn't going to do shit for me, all this other stuff. And the uncle says, you were the only one I didn't do everything for, and I didn't buy everything. You're the only one I can save. Everybody else, I gave you way too much, and you don't appreciate any of it. Mm-hmm. Nephew leaves, comes back on Tuesday, and they sit down, and he goes through the ultimate gift. And the whole process about learning about hard work, learning about giving back, learning about teamwork, learning about all this other stuff. There's a portion of this message that makes sense, okay? But I think you as a parent can create a compensation plan for your kids. And the compensation plan can be based on bogeys you hit. What are the bogeys you hit? Well, Trump said, 3 things I want from you. No drugs, no alcohol, no tattoos. You do that, I'll back you up. Now, you may agree, you may not agree. That's his 3, right? Don Jr. did some of that stuff when he was in college, but still supported him, right? You may sit there and say, well, here's what you have when you get out of high school. Like last time my kids were talking, Mario was sitting right next to me. I'm like, hey, what are you going to do when you graduate high school? Dylan's like, I don't know, Dad. I don't know if I'm going to go to college. Why not? Tico's like, I'm going to go to college. And all of a sudden, they started bringing up boarding school because the private school they're going to, there's a boarding school component. I don't ever want to go to boarding school. Why? Because I want to live with this. So how long you want to live with me? Forever. Dylan, you want to live with me forever? I want to live with you for Dylan. You're not going to want to. I promise you're not going to want to live with me. I want you to live with me forever. You don't want to live with me forever.
He likes
you
the house, Pat. Come
yeah,
on.
he likes the house a lot. Moral of the story is, they said, so what are we going to do? I said, well, look, Daddy's going to leave you a portion of money that you can choose to use for a couple different criterias. You decide what you want to do with this money. But if you screw it up, you don't get anything else. That's all the money you got. So you better use it wisely. I think these are times that parents don't create a set of criteria for their kids. Everything becomes about giving it to them. If you do that and you're not there, I was watching one of these roast videos where Alec Baldwin's daughter says, oh, you guys know who I am. Here's who I am.
Ireland.
I am the daughter of such and such man, and I got to tell you, you know him from this movie, you know him from that movie, you know him from this. But what I know him from is he showed up about to half of my birthdays over the last 30 years. Exactly. And he doesn't laugh.
Yeah. Huh.
And he doesn't laugh. So if you're the guy that makes the money and you're not there at those birthday parties and you're doing movies 6 months out, you're in Europe, it's a part of that
totally.
You kind of screw the whole thing up.
This is an indictment on these rich people, all right? It's so easy for them at the end of the road saying, I'm not going to give you anything. But where were you raising those kids? The reason you haven't heard about them is because these parents ignored them forever and just gave them everything. I 100% blame them if their kids turn into train wrecks and they end up giving them all the money. And Daniel Craig, I stand by my statement that you just don't like your kids. I just, there has to be a component of that in there. How would you not want to take care of your kids?
All right.
I don't get it.
So what is sports? I just hope he keeps making movies, man. I just want
do love him.
I'm going to add one more thing. Pierce Brosnan was the best Bond.
Was he?
I think so.
Better than Sean Connery?
It's pretty good.
I think so.
Irish too, pretty good.
He
Good
just had
looking
bad
Irishman.
material to work with.
So basically, all right. So if I ever have wealth, what I'm getting out of this is that if I want my kids to have it, they need to be worthy of it. So I'm gonna have to create like some sort of legend of the hidden temple of doom. They have to be able to like get through certain different levels of security,
of course.
And then once they prove themselves worthy of the wealth, maybe tame a lion. I don't know, something like that. Is that like?
But you're going to tell your kids at a young age so they know what they're striving for,
so
right?
you know, kind of like the whole thing where you're worth $100 million. You die, you leave each kid $25 million.
Yeah, they're doing the math,
That's
right?
not going to be me.
Yeah.
Your boy
That's
Robert
not gonna be
Kiyosaki,
me.
man.
I'm sorry, that's not me.
He was asked once about generational wealth, and it was some socialists like, don't you think generational wealth is the compound interest, and it's one of the it's basically royalty, and he was like, no, most wealth is gone by the third generation. There's like a third generation
That's the
rule.
point.
Yeah, it's all gone
That's
by the third
point.
generation.
So the habits is what you want to pass down. I'm not worried about passing down the money.
Yeah.
I want to pass down the habits to you. I picked up my dad's habit of working hard. That's what I picked up. I picked up math from my mom. I picked up analytics. That's what was passed down. My parents, they had no money. Nothing was passed down to me financially. That's what I picked up. Now, here's the other part. Say your parents are billionaires.
Can you pass it down? This is the question I have. Sorry. Can you pass it down without that desperation? Your father had desperation. You had desperation.
Right.
So
Can
there's
you pass down desperation?
You can't pass down
You
desperation.
cannot pass down
Yeah,
desperation.
but they
it's-
have
it's-
drive in their DNA, and they should be
You
fostering
do have
that
drive
with
in
their
your
kids.
DNA,
Yeah, you-
but for every Steph Curry, there's
No, I don't disagree with you. You cannot pass down desperation. There's got to be a part for them too. But if you look, this lady at Nordstrom's, man, like completely broke down parenting to me in 30 seconds. I'm in Nordstrom's. Dylan's on top of me. I'm in the room. I'm changing. I'm waiting for the next room to be open. It's packed. Dylan's wrestling on top of me. We're always wrestling together. He always wants to wrestle me, right? He's on top of my head, and I was like, wow, he got me in the chokehold. And this lady's like, wow, I remember those days. I said, what days? My son is 40 right now, but I remember when he was 5. I said, really? I said, give me 3 tips on parenting. I always ask that question. I said, give me 3 tips. I'm not going to give you 3, but I'll give you 1. I said, what's that? He says, when you threat your kids that if they do something, you're going to take something away from them? I said, yes. Always keep your commitment. What a freaking advice. Did you get it?
Yeah.
If you tell them
Yeah.
you're not going to get ice cream, don't bluff them.
Yeah.
Because you will lose credibility. If you tell them they're not going to get ice cream, don't give them the ice cream.
Yeah.
Right.
That's one of the biggest things when you see with parenting is parents are like, but it's my daughter.
Yeah.
I want to do but it's my son.
It's
not
it's
easy.
very true. It only took one time for me to get the belt, and then I knew my father would actually give me the belt every other time.
Parenting is very complicated. It ain't easy. And for parents out there that do their best, look, Perfection is not the standard because you're going to screw up. You just want to be able to do your best. So if you enjoyed this little short segment from the podcast that we did, here's another short segment to watch. Or if you want to see the entire podcast, click over here. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.